Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So today we're got a fun and exciting episode for you guys today because we're going to be taking a look at the most recent fundamental upgrades to the Azahar 3DS emulator. And if Azahar doesn't sound familiar, it's basically built on the code from Citra, but of course Citra has not existed for a while now. But 3DS emulation is still getting worked on, and Azahar is probably, in my opinion, one of the leading emulators out there. So we're going to take a look at some games running, see how the performance is, and talk about the updates and what you need to get started. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we have a Patreon link down below as well. But honestly, it's great to still see 3DS emulation getting improvements. While not every single game is going to run at a full speed no matter what you do, it is great to see these emulators still getting worked on. And as far as the specs for this capture are concerned, I'm working with an i9-12900K overclocked on water cooling, and I have a 3080 Ti as well. I can't even remember what the actual core speed is on that one. I think I adjusted it a long time ago and kind of forgot about it. And I'm obviously doing a little bit of a modest upscale within the Azahar emulator as well. And I would say for the most part, 3D Land wants to run relatively well. Now don't forget, there is going to be some caching involved the first time you play games like this, so don't expect anything to work without hitching. And I did test between OpenGL as well as Vulkan for the back end on the video is concerned, and honestly they kind of felt about the same to me. But again, 3DS emulation is still going strong. Even if we lost stuff like Yuzu and Citra, there's other people out there working with the code base, bringing in improvements, and 3DS emulation definitely is still a work in progress and a moving target. It's not one of those things like think about Dolphin emulator where basically everything just works perfectly fine, and that isn't a knock on Azahar or any other emulator out there. It just takes many years for these things to get to 100% compatibility and 100% speed, and of course depending on your system specs, your results may vary. You may get better speeds or worse speeds than you see here on my captures. But let's take a look at what's going on under the hood in Azahar and this newest update so you can get a better understanding of that. So if we move over to the GitHub page, you're going to see it is at release 2122 right now, and there are some changes, including adding in necessary instruction sets on a CPU. But honestly, if you have something that is a potato, you probably still have this instruction set. Basically, it's going to be CPUs that were released around 2011 or later, so we're talking about anything newer than 14 years old, and you should be fine. But that is that SSE 4.2 instruction set. It's not like AVX 512 where you need a more modern CPU. This is going to be something that, as long as your computer existed within like the last 10 to 14 years, you should be totally fine. But there are going to be a lot of other improvements under the hood, bug fixes, and performance bumps, and that's what we're taking a look at here. And if you want to see an Azahar tutorial, leave me a comment down below. I feel pretty comfortable doing an emulation tutorial at this point in time with the 3DS, but I want to know you guys want it first before I actually work on it. But again, as we go through 3D Land here, one of my favorite portable Mario games of all time, it is running extremely well once one of those shaders end up caching. And that is the thing, you're always going to get some hitches the first time you play through at least the first few levels until everything that the emulator requires shader cache wise has actually been chewed through. It's just kind of one of those things. And do be aware, Azahar uses a different file format than Citra did, so if you do want to bring those files forward, you're going to have to basically look for new ones or get games that you actually own. Every game you see in this video I have in my collection. That is always kind of my own rule. I'm showing you guys what I own. But honestly, this game is so much fun to see here on my PC. It looks absolutely incredible upscaled, and I would say that Azahar does a great job on most of the graphical rendering pipeline. There are going to be some games that don't run whatsoever, like I tried to get Dead or Alive Dimensions running and it just black screened on me the entire time, or other stuff you'll see later in the video definitely has some bugs in the overall graphical rendering. But that's to be expected again because this is still a work in progress, but it's definitely showing a lot of promise, and I can't wait to see how it kind of improves in the future. So if we go over to something like Cave Story 3D, this is a game where it 100% seemed to run at full speed with all of the internal upscaling going on, and honestly an absolutely spectacular game. I would say I prefer the 2D version of Cave Story versus 3D, but this is every bit as good as far as the gameplay and story is concerned, just has a completely different graphical style. And if for some strange reason you've never played Cave Story before, you 100% owe it to yourself to check it out. It is one of the best Metroidvanias ever made, and honestly those later secret levels are insanely hard. Let's go to a soundtrack sample so you can hear how Azahar is doing with the audio portion of it. 45 seconds, I'll be right back, show you some more games and more changes that came to the emulator. I mean, honestly, that sounds exactly like Cave Story 3D should, and in my experience with Azahar, everything is going to sound pretty much good on the audio side of things. It's only going to be sometimes on the graphical glitches or a slight slowdown where you're actually going to see something that wouldn't be done on the actual 3DS hardware. But again, moving target, I'm sure this thing will be in development for years, so long as Nintendo leaves it alone. And of course, it is always a very big question mark. You never know what Big N has in store for anybody. If we take a look at the GitHub page again, you're going to see specific games called out as far as running better, including Luigi's Mansion 2, Star Fox 64 3D, and The Binding of Isaac Rebirth, but you should see improved performance in all of the games here because they have refactored some of the video core, so you should see some better overall frame rates. Moving over to a game that no matter what I do always seems to like to hitch on me, this is Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, and if you've never played this one before, absolutely outstanding on the 3DS, the Wii U, or the Switch. A game so good I own it on 3 different copies. It is just so much fun and it's so charming, and it really does feel like Nintendo kind of experimenting, as every time they have a console that's not succeeding like the Wii U, you end up with something like Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, just something that absolutely feels like Nintendo's trying to make a success when they're absolutely failing on the hardware front. But you will see here, it's definitely going to hitch time and time again. It isn't unplayable in any way, shape, or form. It's just one of those things you're going to have to expect not perfect performance. Now maybe if I dial this back to its native resolution, I would definitely get some more frames, but of course a lot of the fun of emulation, especially on the 3DS front, is actually enhancing the graphics. You can see there's some of those shadows underneath that wooden bridge definitely glitching out. They are not looking correct, so it's one of those things. Don't go into every single game expecting perfection and you will not be disappointed whatsoever. Go into games expecting to have a fun time and kind of test around and see how they're working, and you'll definitely have a better time. And of course I'm doing this on Windows, but it's available for basically every platform as well. So maybe I'll take a look at Steam Deck in the future, because obviously my Citra tutorial is a little bit antiquated on that end because it doesn't exist anymore. But it is great to see developers taking over the mantle of 3DS emulation and giving us improvements based on what we already had. And again, if you want to see that tutorial, leave me that comment down below, because I'd love to see something like the 3DS version of Captain Toad Treasure Tracker just running at full 60 frames per second or whatever the actual refresh rate was on the 3DS. I honestly can't remember what that panel refreshed at, so if you know that, leave me a comment down below. But again, the performance here is definitely better than the last time I took a look at something like Captain Toad. I remember playing this kind of just testing around in my own spare time, and it definitely felt a lot worse than you see here. And this is another game I switched between OpenGL and Vulkan, and while Vulkan had a tiny bit of a performance boost in some instances, in other areas it would lag as well, so it kind of felt a little bit like a mixed bag. But we're going to do the second soundtrack sample again, because not only does Captain Toad Treasure Tracker have amazing music, it sounds absolutely great coming out of Azahar, and I want you guys to listen. So 35 seconds, I'll be right back with one more game I tested on this build. I mean, outside of that stuck sound effect for when Toad got hit and turned small, everything else sounded good, and I left that in there because it's an example of the cache, because that's the first time Toad was small since I've tested this, probably back on Citra. It's something that the emulator actually had to chew through, so the next time that Toad ends up small, you'd end up actually having that play at full speed, so the cache is real, and just keep that in mind. But as far as other games that just seem to work 100% of the time, Mario Party here looks great, rendered in a higher resolution, seems to be running at the exact frame rate I would want it to. The controls are responsive, there really isn't any latency in the overall gameplay. But again, your mileage is 100% going to vary depending on what game you actually want to play, because like I said, for me, Dead or Alive Dimensions would load up, I'd hear a couple notes of music, and then it would go to a black screen and never progress from there. So if you are looking to play a particular game, definitely look it up online before you spend all the time getting it ready. That way you know that you're not just ending up wasting your time on a game that doesn't run. But Azahar is again showing a ton of promise. This is definitely an emulator I will follow along with in video format, as long as you guys are interested address it because I usually always talk about updates on some of the older emulators, stuff like MAME, things like that. But recently we've done PSP emulation because that got a big performance improvement, and it seems like you guys enjoy those as well as Dolphin stuff. So if you want to see more modern emulator updates, leave me that comment down below because I like to make what you guys want to watch, and honestly sometimes it is hard to guess. But as far as Azahar is concerned, this is definitely one to watch. It's taking that code base from Citra and fixing up all the things that would have been problematic in it, changing up how it works and giving you guys brand new 3DS emulation. And honestly, with the most recent improvements, definitely a ton of fun. So if you want to see that tutorial, let me know, but otherwise I'm just going to sit here and watch my Shy Guy absolutely crush everybody else because I nailed this and the CPU is absolutely stupid. But definitely check this one out. There's a link down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.